I wanted to get some time with our buddy, John Lott Jr., somebody I've talked to over the years many times as it relates to the Second Amendment, the very important Second Amendment. And John had a great piece on the Federalist 2 days ago, and I think it's worth talking about, the headline of which a study, concealed carriers do a better job of stopping active shooters than police. Now, I am 1,000% behind law enforcement. Absolutely. And I know the importance, the value, and the contribution of law enforcement to keeping a civil society. We saw law enforcement in New York City hauling those idiots out of the lobby of Trump Tower. Yes, law enforcement vital. But there is something really critical to society when it comes to concealed carry permit holders and people who are actually their own first responders, which I firmly believe in. John Lott Jr., thank you for being here today, my friend. I appreciate you. This is a great piece, and I will encourage everybody to check it out on thefederalist.com if you haven't already done so. What was standing out to you as most surprising in this study, John?
Thanks for having me on. Look, I mean, just before we even get into that, I have to say, anybody who's read my academic research knows that I think police are the single most important factor for reducing crime. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But what happens when you're talking about somebody engaged in an active shooting case is to recognize what an incredibly difficult job a uniformed police officer has in stopping these attacks. So the FBI defines active shooting cases as a gun fired in public, not part of some other type of crime like a robbery or a gang fight over drug turf that involves anything from one person being shot at and missed all the way up to a mass public shooting. And the thing is, if you have a police officer in uniform, the criminal is going to look around, and if he sees the officer there, he may wait for the officer to leave, or he may move on to another target himself. Or if he's going to decide to go through with the attack there, who do you think he's going to go after first? Because he knows the police officer is one person for sure that he knows is armed. So the police have a real tactical disadvantage if they're in uniform in stopping these attacks. The advantage that you see with this, the fact that concealed carry permit holders actually end up stopping these attacks at a more frequent rate than police do, is because the attacker doesn't know who might be carrying concealed. If you have a large number of people there, could be somebody behind him or to the side, he has no idea who he has to go and take out first. So there are a couple things that were there. Not only one, that you have a little bit over half of these active shooting cases were stopped by concealed carry permit holders compared to about 44% for police. But you find that more police got killed in these attacks. And 27 police officers were killed in these 350 active shooting cases that occurred over the last decade, compared to only 2 concealed carry permit holders.
Wow.
And they were also much more likely to end up being wounded than permit holders per attack. And so, I mean, it's just, we should thank the police for the difficult, risky job that they're doing. But one has to understand the very fact that they're in uniform and easily identifiable makes their job much more difficult in many ways.
John, one of the things that strikes me is not just the uniform being a disadvantage to law enforcement when dealing with an active shooter situation, but it seems like the concealed carry permit holder has the benefit of 2 things. As you mentioned, they're not uniformed, so they're kind of camouflaged from the bad guys. But time is an issue. In the case of a concealed carry person, if they are on the scene when an active shooter situation breaks out, you don't have to wait for law enforcement to get there. You're able to take action, if you will, at that time. So they have an advantage of time over law enforcement. And if law enforcement's racing to the scene, most times it's lights and siren. so they're not sneaking up on these guys.
Right. No, that's exactly right. The very fact that these killers, if they see a police officer there, in somebody that they can easily identify because he's in uniform, they may wait until he leaves the scene before they go and attack or go move on to another target. But one of the reasons why we looked at this is that over the last couple of years since the Supreme Court's Bruin decision, the entertainment police shows on ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox have really had a lot of instances where they'll show a concealed carry permit holder there who all the time gets into trouble. Either they accidentally shoot a bystander, or they get in the way of the police, or they get killed themselves. And what you find actually looking at these cases is that's just not the case. Permit holders end up only shooting and wounding out of the 180 cases that a concealed carry permit holder stopped an active shooting attack. Only one time did they wound a bystander. I mean, it'd be better if it was zero, but that's not the impression that you get from watching TV. By contrast, the police in the 150 cases that they stopped attacks, they ended up killing 4 people. 2 of them were fellow police officers, kind of friendly fire situations. So both, it's rare in either case, but, and also you just don't see the other types of problems that are occurring. There's not one instance that you can find in any of those 180 cases over the last decade where a concealed carry permit holder got in the way of police being able to go and do their job to stop an attack.
Yeah, it seems to me like the most concealed carry permit holders that I know, and I know a few because I'm one of that family, most of us like to think that we are there only in case we need to be there, and that privilege that has been granted to us, even though the Second Amendment seems to be a right, but in most states it's looked upon as a privilege, that it's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it, I guess is what I'm saying.
Right. Well, I mean, I suppose it's the same reason why people have fire extinguishers in the home or something.
Yeah.
You hope.
That's a great point.
You may never have to use it. But look, if you look at surveys of police or police chiefs across the country, they're strongly supportive of private ownership of guns and strongly supportive of people carrying concealed. Police One, which is the largest organization of police in the country, they have about 450,000 members there. Their survey finds that 76% of police officers, street officers, think it's either extremely important or very important for people to own guns to reduce crime. You find over 86% of police chiefs across the country support national reciprocity to make it easier for people when they travel to be able to go and carry guns for protection. Police know that they're extremely important in reducing crime, but police also understand that they virtually always arrive on the crime scene after the crimes occurred.
Yep.
And that raises the question what people should do when they're confronting a criminal by themselves. And they know firsthand how important it is to be able to have a gun when you're going and dealing with criminals. And if my research convinces me of anything, there's basically 2 groups that benefit the most, and they're vulnerable people. They're the people who are the most likely victims of violent crime, and that overwhelmingly tends to be poor blacks who live in high crime urban areas, and people who are relatively weaker physically, women and the elderly. You're almost always talking about a young male criminal doing the attack, and when a man is attacking a woman, there's a lot larger strength difference that exists there than when a man is attacking another man.
And a firearm can be a great equalizer. John Lott Jr. is always a font of great information from the Crime Prevention Research Center. And this piece on thefederalist.com, you should follow John on Twitter X as well. John, thanks for always being there, and thanks for bringing the knowledge, especially when it comes to personal safety and that precious Second Amendment. I so appreciate you, sir.
Well, thanks for being there, Mike. I appreciate you. Thank you.
You got it.